Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Real 1%. I'm Michael, your host, and we got another amazing guest with us today, Julia. She is a U.S. Marine veteran, roughly 15 years. She's from an Army brat, so got to ask her why she didn't join the Army when we get into the conversation a little bit. She's a PhD student, and she is a big advocate for mental health, so I'm excited to have her on here today. She's experienced life and death scenarios while in the military, and she's also going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about mental health. She's lost 8 people in a small span of time back in the 2015, 2013 era. And, that's something near and dear to my heart as well, because I've lost a couple people, and we all know how it is when someone tries to take their life to become a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So without further ado, Julia, how you doing today?
I am doing outstanding. Thank
And
you.
no problem. Appreciate you being here. So, why didn't you join the Army if you were an Army brat? I gotta ask you that first. Where was the disconnect?
So I grew up around the Army. I have everyone I was actually the first Marine in the family.
Huh?
And actually right now still the only Marine. Really, it was because everyone told me that I was looking into all my different options as far as the different services. And everyone thought I was going to go Army. And then when I told them that I went to join the Marine Corps, or was thinking about it, they told me that I would never make it. And
Oh,
so I was like, challenge accepted. And then, I did talk to my dad about it. I was still 17 at the time. And so they had to do the parental consent for that recruiters have to do. And so, but really it was just the challenge because everyone told me I couldn't do it because I was like a laughy, giggly kind of, I was young and immature and
yeah.
impressionable. And so, it was because they just told me I couldn't do it. I was like, oh, heck no, I can do it. And
So
you'll watch me.
how was it when you got there? Were you like shook when you got to like basic training or anything like that, or were you like, oh, this is not that bad? How was it for you?
No, I actually got in trouble a lot for laughing and smiling.
Oh,
And what I mean in trouble a lot, like they have us doing like extra PT,
yeah.
they call it the quarter deck or taking us to the pit or something. And so that happened quite a bit of times. I was actually in recruit training at Paris Island for about 5.5 months and was discharged. And then about 7 months later, I talked to my recruiters like, hey, Gunny, can you get me in? And so we did a few waivers. And so I went back to recruit training. A lot of the drill instructors that I had before remembered me. And so they asked me if they knew me. I said yes. And spent another 5 months in recruit training. So I was at Paris Island altogether for about 10.5 months. Um,
Okay.
yeah. And so, and I'd say that I was very, very good friends with the quarter deck and the pit for my laughing, my smiling.
Oh
So,
yeah,
yeah,
they probably didn't know you for that the second time around, huh?
yeah. No, I think they were trying to instill some other discipline, like great discipline into me. And it just didn't work out the way that they wanted it, you know?
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
job did you end up having after you got through the training? Is that when you got like you go to your A school or whatever and do your MOS?
My MOS was 5831, which is corrections specialist. So, most people know it as corrections or a cage kicker or just working in the jails and stuff. And so that's what I did most of the times when I was in the Marine Corps. So,
How was that?
I actually enjoyed it. It taught me a lot of different things about people in the sense of, like the things that they did, the prisoners and the detainees did. Some of them were like your normal, random, not coming back from like going on leave or, smoking pot or something or doing cocaine or whatever, to, more of the serious crimes, like, regarding like assaults or murder or sexual type of things. And so And the reason why I said that I enjoyed it wasn't because I try to make things like rainbows and butterflies or anything. It was just a population that I never thought I would be able to work with. And
Yeah.
so it just kind of opened my eyes to the way that people are and the way that they think and all that. And so it was a very humbling experience also because, you know, you always see stuff in the news and you think that you'll never really interact with, you know, and I put in air quotes those types of people. But, you know, it's just as you get to know people more and more, it's not as bad. And also learning that, you know, they're in there as their punishment, but not for like more punishment. And so it just kind of show that, you know, you can be in a position of like authority, and at the same time, like, how are you going to humble yourself to not put yourself in a way where you're putting others down and stuff. And so it was an interesting experience working with people that were confined in a facility. So yeah.
Did you have to do that like every day when you're back at stateside on your duty station? You'd have to go to PT and then you'd have to go to the work in the jail, or what did you guys do? Rotation work, or how'd that go?
A lot of us were shift workers, and
Okay.
so depending on the time of year it was, like if it was uh, the parts for the rifle range, we'll say, then you may do back to back like 24-hour shifts, or you may do back to back like 12-hour shifts. So it's like 12 on, 12 off, 12 on, 12 off, or 24
Okay.
on, 24 off. And that would be like during like training days. But other than that, though, it was, you know, 24 on, and then depending on where you're at on the rotation, either 24 or 48 off, maybe sometimes 72. Um,
Okay.
and yes, you did have to do PT. A lot of times it was before and after work, and you know, you still have to attend the trainings and everything else. And so it also depended on the facility you worked at, because some of them were 12-hour shifts, and again, you'd still have to do the PT and everything. So yeah.
Oh, you guys got it back, because I was food service in the Army, and we used to always have to go to work early or late and stay, so I guess I never thought about the people that worked in, like, what'd you say, a cell kicker? A cell
A
kicker? I
cage,
never thought
cage
about,
kicker, yeah.
never thought about the cage kickers before, but yeah, the MPs and the cooks in the Army would always be the ones working late, or for the most part, or work weekends, holidays, didn't really matter. Plus all the training, so you were in the same boats. How long did you think you were going to do in the Marines? I know you said you did 15 years, but did you think you were going to do that long when you first got in?
When I first went in, I told everyone I wanted to become Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And yeah, I had really high aspirations, and you know, it was I think it was just more of like a goal, because I just, what I meant was that I just wanted to get as high as I could. I knew I
Right.
didn't want to go officer or anything like that, and so I knew that I wanted to make it a career, because my dad was career Army, and when he retired was around the same time that I was in. I went to high school, so I was in the Navy JROTC for my high school, and so I knew that I wanted to be in the military for a long time, just because it was something that I was used to. It was, and I remembered like some of the parties and stuff like that that my dad would go to, and the family things, and I just really liked that unit, like cohesiveness and like that sense of like family, and that's what I wanted. I really didn't feel like I belonged at where I was living at in Augusta, and so it was just time for me to go. So yeah.
Where did you end up going to on your deployment? Did you go to Afghanistan?
I went to Afghanistan, and I was actually an individual augment. And so my
Okay.
job over there was detainee operations. And so I was actually, like I said, an individual augment. And so I became a liaison between the Combined Joint Task Force that I was working with and the National Guard unit that I got attached to. And so, which working with a different service was, you know, it was an experience in itself, and it wasn't bad. It was just, it taught me a lot more about different military culture, and taught me, like, you know, just the way that they were able to do things. And where I worked at, I was at the operations center for sometimes, but I was able to go to a lot of different operating bases that, were manned or had like other military services and provided like training on Geneva Convention, laws of war, how to do detainee ops and stuff like that to prevent people from getting in trouble, from previous wartime experiences that people got into trouble for. So yeah.
Where did you go to Fob Leatherneck?
I did.
Is that what year? Because I was there too. I was there from 2010 to 2011.
I was there. I visited there.
You were there?
Yes. Yes.
Small world. Small world there. Probably saw each other in the DFAC or something.
Probably. Yeah. We were only there for, I was only there for a few days. But like I said, I was able to go to like a few of the Army places, like Shank and Lane and Salerno and, a few of the other
all the hotbeds.
Yes. And so it was, like I said, it was an experience that I'll never forget. And yet it seems like it was a completely different lifetime.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's been so long already too. I mean, you look back and it's already been like years on in since being over there. So it does feel like it was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was your favorite part, if you had any, about the deployment? Did you have any good moments?
Yeah, it was actually just doing some of the holiday stuff that the National Guard unit did. And so, like Halloween, like we dressed up and so there are like pictures out there where you're like, ooh, gosh, like I hope the Marine Corps doesn't like see this because it's like, I'm in uniform, but like I have cat uniform or cat costumes on me, and so, and back in my day, I was, you have those websites where they kind of like put you on blast, so hopefully those never, but it's just, but like, it was just like the cohesiveness and then just being able to like hang out with the Marines that I was able to be deployed with, they were, even though they were at a different base, just being able to go on these trips with them and these training trips and being able to hang out with them again and just being around like my family, like as far as the Marine Corps side of the house, it was just really nice because it just, we were from the same unit and they understood what was going on and they knew like the things that were going on at home. And so there was just like this mutual understanding of, just our experiences and where we came from and stuff. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. You still talk to some of those people till today from deployment at all?
I do. I actually still have a lot of them is through social media. Yeah. And so, I still have friends that are from like the National Guard unit. They taught me a couple of like, card games and stuff like that. And then of course, like the Marines, I still keep in touch with them. It's not as much as I would like. However, because I do know that life gets, a hold of us sometimes. And but there are times where we do reach out to one another and say at least hello and see how the other person's doing and stuff, or at least even commenting on a post just so they know that they're, you're thinking about them and stuff. So
absolutely. You got to, in a world that we're so connected. I always say sometimes it feels like we're so disconnected, but yeah, I mean, you probably met some of your best friends in the military. I know I did, during those times and sharing those times, and over in Iraq for however long, or Iraq for a year and a half, Afghanistan, nonstop. And it's just, you get close to people. So glad that you kept in touch with them. And, you guys still talk to this day. It's always good to hear. When did you start hearing about like people that were committing suicide? Were you in the service or were you out? Like when you started, like, those 8 people that you mentioned that you knew like took their own life, is that a mixture of while you're in service or out?
It was a little bit of both. However, it was the ones when I was in service, it was a lot of like really like the high risk behaviors. And it was something where you really can't say it was suicide, but it was a lot of behavior that could possibly lead into like making mistakes or, something where the activities they were doing were kind of questionable.
Yeah.
And their ideas and mindset was probably um, a bit more like IDGAF, right? And
Yeah.
so like and so and so but I didn't really see it until more I got out in 2015. And in 2016 I lost like between 8 to 10 people. and
Uh,
um, and that was through like either suicide or through, again, like high risk behaviors, or like, and that would be like riding their motorcycles too fast. And I'm not like anti motorcycle,
right.
but riding their motorcycles too fast, or self-medicating, or or just dying by suicide. And so it was just really disheartening, because I've always been like one of the ones where I'm like, hey, I'm here. And then also being the person where I too have had like the suicidal ideations, and like heavy like hardcore, like where I've had to uh, seek interventions for myself, that it's um, where I can kind of like empathize for folks. And so it was just like an overall bad experience, to see that and to see how many. And it wasn't just like my peer group. It was like younger folks. It was people that were my seniors. It was peers. It was everyone. And so it's just like, what the hell? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah. And so it's hard. And even last year, I had someone that did kind of remind me of me, when I was still active duty, and they were active duty, and they died by suicide. And it was just and that was hard too, just because like they knew the mental health. I was in the mental health field. And so even as a mental health professional, still taking it seriously, like me taking it personally, of like, you knew I was here. And then remembering too, though, that that he was not there at that, like he was there in his own bubble,
yeah.
and that was his own experience. And so for me not to take that away from him, and even though it was a very crappy deal, it's just that that was his experience. And to know that that people experience this all the time, and we don't know who's actually going through it.
You're
And
right.
so that's why I listened to like one of your podcasts, and you were talking about like just reaching out to other people when you
Yeah.
can. And I thought that was a very powerful message. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it is sad. I mean, it's sad because a lot of people make it through the hard part of going to war, right? And then they just don't
mhm.
know how to, I guess, compose themselves or deal with it at the time. And we've all been there. I mean, I've been there with all the shit hit the fan, right? And you're just trying to figure stuff out, and you don't really know what to do. You're in the fight or flight mode, as they call it, and you're not really looking to see what they have out there, so you can like go to a family outing or something like that. You're trying to figure out how to fix what's going now, or the feelings that you're going through, or whatever it may be. But how are you finding out about all of them? Were you going like, it seems like I've found out all bad news sometimes on Facebook, or like scrolling through Facebook. Oh, that someone's gone, or you talk to one of your old friends and say, "Hey, you hear about Rex?" Like, no, what happened? Oh, you
Yeah.
killed him. So, what was it for you? Like, how did you find out? There's a domino effect of friends telling you, or social media, or a combination of both?
It was all social media. And so when I find out through social media, I actually call people to let
Yeah,
them know, so they don't find out through social media. And then I also have friends that don't have social media. And so I'll call them, and I'll let them know. And it's normally after I'm able to process like my own feelings like quickly, so I can like maintain my composure, in case like I need to be there for like them, in case they need that ear or something. But
right.
mostly I normally probably like 95% of the times find out through social media.
Yeah,
And but I normally, when I find out about someone, even if I find out through their I'll still call people and let them know, like, on the phone, like, hey, this is what happened. I just wanted you to know before you found out this way, or something. So, yeah.
That's hopefully we can get an end to it. Before we got on the call, I was reading something on like the USO website, and they were saying there's roughly 4 times as many suicides as there are deaths in combat. So it's kind of crazy to put. It's been like 30 something thousand veteran suicides since the date of the article I read, and there's been 7,000 deaths in combat for U.S. soldiers. It's like not even close. Sad. So hopefully you got, if anyone out there is, going through it, just reach out. I mean, you guys got families, you guys got friends. I'm sure there's someone in your corner. If not, you can hit me up. I'm sure you can hit Julia up. I mean, I do anything I can to help, anybody point you in the right direction, because there's a lot of stuff out here for veterans, our community, and you gotta be patient. You gotta know what you want, and you gotta just go after it. I didn't know what I wanted when my whole life blew up. I'm sure you've changed your mind a couple times, but you got to just keep pressing forward and surround yourself by people that will tell you the truth and be honest with you and help you when you're in need, because you don't have to take on life yourself. Sometimes I like to try to, but you don't really get too far. You need people in your corner. So let's go back a little bit, because you said you knew people when you were in the military and getting out the Marines and like taking their life. So when did you know that, when did you know that you were going to get out the military?
So in 2014, I was, up for promotion and was passed over for gunny. And I don't mind like my information being out here, so whatever. People can judge me all they want, but I was passed over for gunny once, and I was like, well, I still loved the Marine Corps, and I was at a place in my life where I was like, you know what, I love it. The Marine Corps was offering early retirement. I'm not going to become Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and so I'm still young enough to be able to move forward and get a different career, and I wanted to leave it while I still loved it. I didn't want to stay in because I was scared. I was nervous and I was scared, but in about like around 2014 was when I knew that was just time for me to go. It was a really hard decision, because I knew that I would miss like the Marines, like the troops, and and my peers, and it was just like I said, it was just time. And so I in the summer of 2014 was when I made the decision, okay, like, Julia, like, it's time for you to move on to the next trip. You're always willing to take a challenge, so this is going to be another one, and maybe you can serve veterans out there, in the real world, and stuff like that. And so, and then I retired. Like I said, I took that early retirement and retired in May of 2015. So,
okay.
yeah.
You said you wanted to help veterans when you got out. Did you already start devising a plan 2014 and like, hey, I'm going to go to GI Bill, or hey, I'm just going to get out and go sit on the beach for a little bit? Or what was your plan of action when you got out?
I didn't really know how I was going to do it. I just knew I wanted to help people and veterans that like have like some mental health stuff, but I didn't know how I was going to do it because I didn't even have like an associate's or anything like that. And so I knew though that I needed to have a job. And so I actually ended up working. I made connections, started networking, and started on when I was on terminal leave. I was able to start working at a transitional housing here in Corpus Christi, and worked in transitional housing for a couple of years to kind of, I guess, get like my feet wet of what it was like working out in the civilian sector. And then I realized that I was not really getting paid as much as I wanted to, and I knew that I could offer more, and yet people weren't taking me seriously because I was considered a paraprofessional versus like someone that had a degree. So then I decided to get my undergrad and everything. So I know that was a long answer
Right.
to your
Yeah.
question, but yeah. And so I got my undergrad in community mental health and a minor in social work, and then went straight into the master's program for counseling, so clinical mental health counseling. And then I had a couple jobs here and there that just like veteran related jobs, but it was more of like receptionist type things.
Yeah.
But and so when I finished my undergrad and when I did my master's in counseling, vocational rehab, did that,
Okay.
like paid for it and took care of it. And then I worked at the mental health agency, the local one here, for a couple of years, and decided to start my doctorate, and get my PhD in counselor education. So,
Good for you.
and that is
You
GI
all
Bill.
you gonna be doing all you gonna be doing all then. Once you get done, you can open your own. What's your goal for when you finish with your PhD? What do you want to do? Minus a
Um,
vacation, real quick.
so besides the vacation, I what I really want to do is, and the reason why I'm getting my PhD is because the more letters you have behind your name, the more money you can get. And I don't mean from like clients, I mean from people that you can get grants from and funding from. And so I want to be able to start my own like ranch, like a veterans ranch, where people can come out, like veterans can come out for about 6 months or so, and it's funded through like either the VA or through like local agencies or government agencies, where they can come out and learn more about agriculture, or like how to work with their hands, being outside, go fishing, go hunting, you
Absolutely.
know, um, try to get away from like the substance use, that people may be self-medicating with, just being outdoors, and like they call it eco wellness, but
Okay.
so they can get away from like the noise pollution or the pollution that's like just the stuff that's out there, and so they can
Yeah.
focus on what's going on in here. And so
That's awesome. Might need to do a collaboration because I want to do something like that one day too, like a retreat with like a tiny home village, but like get outdoors,
yeah,
maybe go to a baseball game, go to the beach, go do
yeah,
this, go do this. But we might be collabing one day. You never know, folks. You
yeah,
never know. Like, let's
yeah,
go. That's
yeah.
good
Come
though.
join us. We'll do it.
That's what I'm saying. Come to Florida. We're here. We're
Yeah,
waiting on you. Let's go. But yeah, that's good though. I mean, it's good to dream big and like do stuff like that because realistically, it can all happen if you think of it. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It's not even about like I guess something I've learned once I got the military, like you don't really need all the money in the world to make something happen if you have a good plan. Maybe you have the right partner, maybe you have the right investors, maybe you have the right veteran that's a multimillionaire that says, you know what, Julia, it's a good idea. Here's $10 million. I don't want nothing for it. And we're not looking to get rich off veterans. We're trying to look to give back, like you said it.
Yeah,
You have to have that stuff behind your name to get that grant money because there is free money out there for
yeah,
veterans and programs. So when you find it, let me know. If I find it, I'll let you know.
yeah,
Whoever finds, So,
yeah.
but no, that's good though. If we can rewind a little bit back and go back to like when you're getting out of service, I'm curious to know because you got out the same year I did, different branches, but what did your transition look like? Because you also had a good amount of years in. So did you have someone in your corner saying, hey, Julia, did you get this stuff checked out by the VA? Did you get it? What did that look like for you? Did you have a smooth transition? Do you think something could have been better? What's your take?
I had a couple of good friends that were in my corner. One of them, which is something that I did not mention, but one of the duties I was on recruiting duty, and I met this person on recruiting duty, and then he ended up being the administrative chief over at my last duty station, and then he got out. And he actually started working over at the claims department for one of the VAs in Texas.
Okay.
And so he would reach out to me every once in a while and be like, hey, like, did you do this? Hey, just so you know, like, we have your paperwork and this and that. And so he was able to help me go through some of this, as far as like the administrative part. As far as like the mental health part, I would really say it was like my husband. He calls me staff sergeant still, and which is funny. And so like when I get my doctorate, he's like, well, I don't know what to call you. And so I told him, I was like, well, you can call me like Dr. Staff Sergeant, or something like that.
I
Something
was gonna say
cheesy,
both of
but
them combined. Yeah, there you go.
and so like he was a really good support. But as far as like really anything from the population, not so much. It was kind of lonely, and it was like I tried to make connections with other people, but I felt really awkward, because I wasn't like in anymore. And so I attended like the Marine Corps ball like the same year, and I didn't fit anymore. And then I also didn't fit with the veterans in my local area, because most of them were older generation, and I didn't really belong there. And so I was just, like I said, I was just really lonely. And so it had to be to where I had to go like seek some resources like myself. And though also knowing that it was something that I was going to have to do, because people weren't going to come find me. And it's not like I wanted to be that way. I think though too, I was just really nervous and like humbled and didn't want to be embarrassed and all that other stuff. And so I just didn't know where to start. And so if I didn't have my friend that worked in the VA, things would have probably not been as great. And then eventually I did hook up with, there was like a women veterans group here that was pretty active, that I did end up syncing with them somehow. And so they kind of helped with some of it. But that didn't like last too long. And that's just because everyone has their own personal lives. And so, but a lot of it was just kind of like managing the going through the system yourself and trying to figure things out.
What was if you could go back, or you could tell someone right now that's in the similar shoes to you, or it's going to be in shoes like boots, I guess you could call it boots. My bad, everybody, soldiers here. A similar boots to you. Like, what would you tell them to try to alleviate the pain that you had to go through? What would your message be to somebody that's still in the service, or that might already be out, but is thinking about doing the VA stuff? What would you tell them?
I would tell them both to look out for one another. All right. Because it's kind of like siblings, right? It doesn't matter how old someone is or where someone is in their career.
It's true.
It's being like siblings. And instead of saying like, okay, well, I gone through it and I can do it myself, so you can do the same thing, then, saying like, hey, like I can take you, and I can show you. And then the other person, the one that is getting out, be like, okay, like I need help, like please tell me. And to remember that like pride can be like a huge butthole like in your life. If you
for real.
And if you want things to like screw you over, then it'll happen. And so for like there to be maybe like an openness to more of like a mentorship mentee type of thing, not in the sense of like power and control or any of that stuff, but like, okay, like we can help you with this and this and this. And for the person that just got out, maybe saying, well, hey, just so you know, they have these new benefits now, or these some of the things that maybe you could qualify for, and so it's just being able to relay the information to one another. My sister, she just got out of the Air Force. She just retired. She did 22 or 23 years. And so, and she just retired within the last couple of months. And so even with her, it's like me saying like, hey, there's this, and this, have you done this? And so again, it's being that open and being able to share the information. So I think that would be one of the biggest things, would be to talk about that, like what's out there, and to accept that guidance if it's available. So, yeah.
What did your sister say when you were telling her, put her up on the game Did she know what you were talking about, or did she say, okay, like should look into it, or how was her reception of it?
She is receiving it, I think, like mostly how anyone would, where they have so much stuff going on in their life
Yeah,
that they don't know what to do. Like there's so
absolutely.
much that you don't do anything. And because of she's got like a family, and she's got, she's waiting for certain clearances and everything else. And so with her, there are certain things that she doesn't view to be as important now. And so it's me telling her, well, like, hey, like, did you do your disability claims? Because you do rate certain things. And she's like, no, I haven't done it yet. And I was like,
That's
okay, so
crazy.
yeah. And I'm like, girl, like, you just got out like a couple months ago. Like, and so again, though, it's not losing faith in those people, and to kind of like remind them, like, hey, like, you're still here. And even though it may be like kind of frustrating in certain ways, to maybe, I guess, remember, like, for the veteran to remember what it was like for you when you got out, and
Yeah,
to have that patience for like the person that just got out. And even though it's just like, going back to the whole family thing, even though like older sibling or parent may have gone through the same thing before,
yeah,
sometimes they just got to like learn on their own, and you're there to like help them along the process, and they just have to learn. And so kind of like keeping that balance of like helping them remain accountable and letting them see, like, okay, like, I'm still here, and so kind of
yeah.
like,
You don't want to disappear on them for sure, but I guess it's just knowing that it's so much easier to do a claim, for instance, like when you're in the service and you're getting paid
mm,
still and all this stuff, especially if you retire, I think you can do it like a year out or 6 months out or something. It might not be a year, don't quote me, but it's something like that. And like for me, I know I did it all the wrong way. That's why another reason why I like to do, talk to veterans and do podcasts or whatever, just put the information out there. I didn't even know what the right information was, but I'm not blaming nobody but myself because I didn't even go to the VA appointment when I got out. It was like something to do, check block or whatever, but I don't think it said it was mandatory. I just went about my way, but it took me 5 years to catch up. Better
mm,
than 20 years or 50 or never, but it's just a lot easier to take care of some stuff while you're still in the service than it is when you get out. Because once you get out, then you got, like you said, your family, then you're back maybe working a civilian job, and then the VA is only open the same time you got to go to work, but you don't want to miss work because you got to get, and then you start playing that game, and then it's 5 more years, and you're like, hey, did you get the VA yet? No,
mhm,
man, I didn't mean to, but I just got to call around, and I've been at work. Oh, all right. That's
mhm.
all right. It's hard to hear that sometimes, but like you said, you got to let people learn and do it themselves, because no one's really going to come do it for you. And no one, at the end of the day, like you have a good friend or a good family member. Yeah, I'm sure they care about you and your well-being, but no one's going to care about any of this stuff as bad as you, at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So,
Mhm.
but that's cool. So you got, everyone went a different way than your dad, then Air Force. Your sister was smart. She went to the Air Force.
Yeah, whatever,
Air Force, Air Force, She
yeah.
probably had probably living in Italy and Spain and
Mhm.
wherever else she was, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all good. You probably said the Marines reign supreme. You guys like have arguments in your house when you all get together? Like, who had the
Uh,
best, or not really?
Not really. Only because, like I said, I was the first Marine, and so, and like I said, the only one, and so everyone like just really like bragged on me. I was like, oh,
Oh,
I'm nothing, and but then like so my sister, she joined the Air Force, and then I have a brother that also joined the Air Force,
oh,
and
snap.
so yeah, and so which more power to him, and everything,
Yeah.
and I think though. I never really say anything about the other services until someone says something back to me, and then after that, I'm like, all right, we want to fight, like we can fight, and I'm going to win, and I'm going to smile,
Well,
and
you gotta do like pretty badass hand-to-hand combat and basic training starting off, I think, and then you guys doing like a million pull-ups a day. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. uh, Yeah, training was fun, and what I really missed the most is like the running and the fitness part of it. I was never like really a fast runner, but but I just enjoyed it, like half marathons and like the Spartan races and stuff like that.
Okay.
Those were fun to me. The running part, like I said, I was just not a very fast one. I was consistent but not fast.
That's all
So
good. What
yeah.
I know you're talking about like doing all your stuff in mental health, and and you wanted to advocate on why veterans fit the build for, the mental health professional realm, I guess we call it.
Mhm.
What do you have to say on that topic? Why do you think so?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think that so in the field of counseling or in the field of like mental health, they always talk about like multiculturalism. They talk about cultures and being able to talk to one another. And there's just like certain experiences that certain individuals have because there is a common like background or something.
Right.
And so I'm a huge advocate for other veterans coming into the mental health field and getting, education in it. And so that way they can serve other veterans. Because there is a different language that we speak. There is a different, and there are like other subcultures within the military culture and the veteran culture. And so the subcultures, like as in like small groups, like whether it's women veterans, male veterans, people that are rural, stuff like that. And then, you have the different racial groups and everything within the veteran community. But I think the more representation that you have like in the counseling field, the better. And, I've done like a lot of research and they talk about how a lot of, not all veterans, but a lot of veterans feel more comfortable around other people who are veterans. And so
Yeah.
there is this thing about being able to talk to one another so that way you may not like understand like the lingo fully, and yet the other veteran may not mind like describing what it is, because it's like, hey, well, at least you understand 85% of what I'm saying. So if I have to explain just a little bit to you, even the verbiage that comes out of my mouth, this is probably like one of the longest times that I haven't said a cuss word, right? And so it's just like being able to, you know, say certain things and for the other person to like be like, okay, cool, like I got you, and where you may have like morbid jokes or something like that, and know that it's not coming from a place of like being like a nasty person or being a nasty individual. It's coming from a place because you may not know how to express yourself. And
Yeah.
so I think having other veterans to come to be either a counselor or a psychologist or social worker or something, just where we can have more representation in the field, then maybe the amount of problems that veterans and like even active duty face as far as not being able to talk to someone in a more professional setting. I think that if we had that representation, things would improve. But if
Okay.
we don't have it, then there are a lot of other veterans who go seek counseling and they may not feel comfortable with a counselor because the counselor and the veteran don't like bond well, and it's not saying
Yeah.
that people will bond with all veterans and that everyone knows everything about one another. It's
Yeah.
just the language.
No, you're right, and that's a lot. I've heard a lot of people say that before. Oh, you're not a veteran. I've probably said it before too. Maybe not to my voc rehab counselor. I think I asked him, and he wasn't. But he was a whole other story, to say the least. But yeah, you're right. I mean, veterans probably opened up easier to other vets, and it's probably an underserved market, right? You gotta have like what a master's degree though to have any type of counselor job, right? For the most part now.
Yes. Yeah. A master's degree for counseling. And there are other degrees like where you won't be like a counselor, but I mean, you can still be like a licensed chemical dependency counselor, right? Like an LCDC,
Okay.
where you just deal with like people that are, or you're working with people that are, on substances, and so you can work in that population without a master's, and so there are different areas where people can work with other veterans and their mental health and everything else without having to get like a master's. It's just really just trying to get more representation of other counselors in the field so that way we can help one another out. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate you sharing that. What helped you get through all your mental health, trials and tribulations? Was it a combination of a couple things, or just healing time, or what was it for you?
A lot of it was seeking my own therapy, and finding what works for me as far as coping skills. There were times where I wasn't doing any of them, and so I was like drinking a lot, and I never did like really like any of the other like drugs or whatever. But it was mostly like a lot of drinking or getting a lot of tattoos or something like that. And so and those would be considered what we call in our field more like maladaptive behaviors. And so like just behaviors that may be more like high risk or something. So what helped me the most though was more of the getting counseling, talking to people that I knew that cared, and not really isolating myself, even though there are still times to where I isolate, right? And a lot of that is for self-preservation because I work with people, I talk to people, and so there are going to be times where I don't want to talk to anybody, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so I think it's not shaming like really like your coping skills, and that's that. And so and then I'm also like on medications that help me maintain my balance. And so being able to advocate for yourself on that part too, of like if someone is on medications or contemplating meds, then they do talk to their psychiatrist or whoever's giving the medication and let them know like, hey, like this isn't working for me, or I'm feeling like a zombie or something like that. And then being able to tell their truth to those doctors because they're not going to know. And so,
Right.
but I think it's a mixture of everything. And then finding people that are supportive of me, that aren't going to try to make me feel like I am like, crazy or something, because I know I'm not.
Yeah.
And knowing that my symptoms related to my own mental health and my diagnoses, suicidal ideations is something that I think about. And it is something that can be decreased. And it is going to be something that I think about probably for the rest of my life. And to know that it doesn't mean that you have to like act on those ideations. That's just when they become more prominent that you find something that is that will be helpful to you. So yeah.
What's been most helpful for you when you get that? What do you usually do?
I think about mostly like my family, and I think about what I'm doing. Because the other part of your question too is that knowing like what your mission is in life and
Yeah.
like what you want to do. And so I know that feeling this way and like the ways that I felt before is not uh, a really great feeling, and it's lonely and it's dark. And so I think people finding their mission and what they, even though there's like life after the military, and they talk about like leadership and how it's like mission accomplishment and then troop welfare, right? And then but like in order for sometimes for the mission to work, you need to worry about like the troop welfare. And so the troop welfare is like you. And so and for me, the focus right now is like what my mission is to help other people and to let them know that life can be crap. And what are you going to make out of this crap? Is it going to be like turn it into fertilizer and make really great flowers? Or is it going to be like stinky and crappy and like just be all over your shoes? And like, what are you going to do with it? And so, what are you going to do? And so I think it's really finding a mission. And so that's, I don't know if I answered your question because I sometimes go on tangents.
No,
But
you're good. You're good. Doing great. It's great. I think you're absolutely right though, because if you don't have a why, you just kind of do. You're like a, what do they call it? A wandering generality or a meaningful specific, right? Like, so it's like, which one are you? But yeah, I feel like I'm finding my why now. I mean, I did contracting. It was before contracting, I was leaving jobs left and right, like, working like 12 different food service jobs and stuff like that. But when you're getting underpaid and you're unhappy and you're not in the military, you're not in the contract, you don't really have to go back to work the next day. Now, I'm not saying like it's smart to just quit your job on a limb or anything like that, but I mean, that is an option if you're downright miserable and, you know, not in the right headspace and timing. But I mean, absolutely right. You got to find your why and just go after it. Probably, you know, when you have your why, which you probably have now, it's easier for you to get up in the day, probably get going because you know you're working towards something greater than you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can't go wrong with that. Was it? I meant to ask you this earlier. What was it like being a female in the Marines? Did you have any pushback? I mean, I've talked to several women in the military, and some of them have horror stories. Some of them, you know, have good. But curious to hear your take on it.
So I loved the Marine Corps. My experiences, it was different depending on the unit that I was with.
Okay.
And it was dependent on like my time of like where I was in my career.
Okay.
And so there were people that like when I was a young Marine, people took care of me, like a very young, like Lance Corporal, PFC, even Corporal, like where I was taken care of a lot. Because they knew, they suspected or not really suspected or thought that I was innocent, but they knew that I was like very good natured and that they wanted to make sure that the leadership that I had like took care of me and everything else, and still treated me the same, still did all that. It wasn't until I got into recruiting duty where I had like maybe a lot more challenges, and I think maybe part of that was because of the location. Some of it was maybe not seeing eye to eye with the command that I was at, and then things got a little bit more complicated throughout that duty. And then because of that, I had more challenges when I left recruiting to go in there. I would say that I had to prove myself a lot, and that there were stuff related to like uniform because of like I'll just say it, I am very top heavy, and so there are times where people thought I wasn't wearing a sports bra, and I'm like, I'm wearing two, right? And so like literally like wearing two, and so there are times because I was, you know, there were times where people would like make passes or call me in the middle of the night and everything, and so there was, you know, asking for maybe favors and stuff. And so that part was hard, and it like caused me to lose a lot of faith in like the family portion of it. I also have experiences with certain traumas, we'll say, and like related to sexual trauma, and so that was really really difficult. And so there were moments before I retired, that I wanted to leave the Marine Corps, but I decided to stay in because I didn't want to leave my younger folks, like my troops, in a situation to where they didn't have anyone that they could go to. And so I won't say like I was a martyr or any of that stuff, but I just really wanted to make sure that they had someone to go to. And this is when the Marine Corps was like kind of changing things a little bit more and becoming more open to like receiving information from, you know, people that may have had bad experiences during that time.
Okay. So before that, it was kind of shut. The door was shut. Like they're not really taking in any information. Okay.
Yeah.
I was always interested to talk to people at a different branch because, I mean, I deployed to 2 Marine FOBs out of my 3 deployments, and it just seemed like the Marine, it was like a stigma, I guess, but it seemed like Marine girls did not like Marine guys. Let's just put it like that. I don't know if that was just, you know, just because they got treated bad. I mean, I guess it's hit or miss, you know, like on how you were, like you said, the people you were around and your personal experience with it, because you could have people that are having a great time, or you could have people that are having the worst time of their life. So it seems like you got a little bit of both.
Yeah, it was for me, it was very dependent on my commands. And uh, I'm fortunate to be one of the ones where I was a very hard worker and I was dedicated, and so they could see that. And so I would say that I didn't receive as much pushback as maybe some others would. And we were a very small MOS. And so I'm very fortunate in that aspect. It was just when things were maybe outside of my MOS where things may not have been so positive for me. And so that's really that. And then as far as like my like for male Marines, and I think that maybe some of the competition that happens, I think it's internally like fed. I think that sometimes uh, because one group acts a certain way, then the other group acts a different way, then they kind of like feed into each other, and
Yeah.
which is something I really didn't understand because we're still like trying to do the same mission. And so like that was the part that I didn't understand, because we work together, we're essentially like together all the time. And so why do we have to be so freaking terrible to one another? Like that part I
Yeah.
just didn't get.
That doesn't
And
make
so
sense. Yeah.
no. And so but yeah, so being a woman in the Marine Corps was hard. However, it was something that I knew that I was getting into, regarding like physical and even some of the mental stuff. And so that stuff is I don't regret. It's just
Yeah.
some of the other experiences I wish didn't happen, but I'm not regretful of those situations either. They taught me something about myself and other people. So yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that. What
no problem.
was there a lot of women cage kickers?
There were a few
A
actually.
few? Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
How
and
do you guys get your jobs in the Marines? They just do it like the old like line up like full metal jacket and just go down the line, or what are they like? What are they? Is that how they do it
no,
for you guys? What?
no. So they put in. So when you sign up for the military or for the Marine Corps, they put you in maybe. And this was when I was a recruiter, so this is how I know this. So it may be different now,
Okay.
but you sign up for a field, and you don't know what actual MLS you're getting into until like big Marine Corps like says like, hey, we need this and this and this and this. And
Right.
so we're not actually told until we get into our combat training, which is over, they have East Coast, West Coast, and stuff like that. But when you get out of recruit training and you go to like your secondary, like combat training, which is before your job school, that's where they
Okay.
tell you where you get your job at. And so when they told me I was corrections, I was like, what's corrections? Like, am I correcting papers, or like, am I like, what am I doing? Because I was at that time I was 19, and so
Right.
I didn't know what that was. So yeah.
Oh, that's wild. I didn't even know you guys go to combat school. I just learned something new. So you go to basic training, and then you go to combat school, then you go to your job school. So you're doing three
Mhm.
different schools. Marines.
Yes, and
Okay.
so the combat training isn't like for most people. It's not like how it is for people that are really on like ground units. It's more
Okay.
like people that are like me, where it's people other than grunts or
Oh,
whatever.
we love the Pogues. Let's go. We love the Pogues. Yeah, I know they love
Yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
so for for us, it's like maybe about 3 weeks a month or something, and then we go on our merry ways. So that way we can like learn more about the different guns that are out there, and like throw a grenade or something here or there. And
Yeah.
other than that, that's when we go to the our MOS school. And then those but the grunts though, and like the other guys, they go to like their own different school and everything, which is still under like SOI, but School of
Okay.
Infantry. But yeah, but us, some of us folks, we go to like the 3 week training thing.
It's all good. I
So
didn't know about that. I gotta love the Pogues. Pogues for the win. Make it
yeah.
happen. We make it happen here. What? How is the food in the Marines?
um so the food was, I didn't eat at the chow hall a lot.
Not
From when I had
amazing,
it was
then.
decent. I my favorite is chili mac, and so it still is to
There
this
you
day.
go.
Yeah.
That's a
So
state. That's a military staple, though. If you're not in the
yeah,
military, you don't know what chili mac is. You haven't been in the military too long, like
yeah,
right?
yeah. Right,
Chili
right.
mac
Yeah.
MRE or
Chili
chili
mac is
mac
super.
or chili mac MRE? You talking, or are you like fresh chili mac, like fresh out, in the field, kicking cages, eating chili
Um,
mac? Like,
no, so like in the dining facility, chili mac was my favorite. Now,
okay,
the favorite MREs I had were like more the older, like vegetarian MREs because they had all the better snacks and they always
well, I've heard. I know they had all the snack M&Ms. They had all the good snacks,
uh-huh,
pound cake, whatever. They got to make up for
uh-huh,
no meat. You get the cheese
right.
tortellini, and not
Yeah.
bad. I mean, not a bad choice.
No, I liked the vegetarian. Now the newer ones that they were coming out with like the omelets and stuff, I never ate those. I chose not to eat those. I would eat like a granola bar or something. So
Pass on the
yeah,
omelets, yeah. Pass on a packaged
yeah,
omelet too, probably.
yeah,
You gotta love
yeah.
that. What are you planning on? Oh, actually, what was your favorite duty station? Didn't even ask you where you're stationed at. What was your favorite duty station?
Um, my favorite duty station was Okinawa. I went there twice. I was there from 2000 2002, and I went back in 2011 to 13. And I liked both times, but for different reasons. The first time I liked it was because I was a young Marine, and the barrack stories and all that other stuff, just the cohesiveness, the trickery that happened. And it was just a lot of fun. And so I missed that and I loved that. That's where I learned, I don't know, just all the, I mean, those were the best barrack stories. And
Yeah.
then and then the second time when I went was because I was a staff sergeant and I was able to drive and like wander the island like a lot more and got to see more of the island. I got to see the other Marines because I was on Camp Hansen both times. And so I got to see like myself as a staff sergeant and like some of the younger Marines and like the secondhand embarrassment that I had from like watching them, remembering like that I was like that
That
too.
was you. That was you.
But
Yeah,
yeah, it was a wake up call. But yeah,
that's
but I
good.
liked
Japan,
Okinawa. Mhm.
Japan, not bad. Never got to go there. Still try to get out there one day as a civilian, but not yet. Good food. They say good food, good people, clean. Good nightlife. So it's probably fun to be stationed there as a young Marine. I'm sure people, like you said, I was in Germany, so we got barrack stories, and nothing tops those barrack stories for the most part. So nothing like being overseas as a young American. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what
But
do
that
you?
was my favorite.
That's your favorite. Yeah. What are you working on? What are you working on now? Mine is being full time student. Other than that,
Mhm.
what are you working on?
Um, so I work at a private practice. Like I said, I'm a licensed professional counselor and fully licensed. And so I work at a private practice. My goal is to really work with veterans. And right now, though, I see some civilian folks and I do see some spouses and everything, but my goal is to get more veterans in there. I try not to see kids that much. I don't like seeing kids with adult eyes. Like kids are a population that I think takes a very special person to do it, and I think so that is one field where I'm not really like I have. It's just something I prefer not to. So
Okay.
I do that, and then I also do free hours at a free clinic here, and then I provide like free counseling to a clinic, and then I do some veteran related stuff like for the VFW and other organizations. So yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what if any veterans that want to get a hold of you to help you with your idea, or maybe they want to talk to you about mental health? How could they get a hold of you?
They can find me on Facebook. I'm easy to find.
Okay.
So my full name on Facebook is Julia Christine Sneed LeClaire. I know
I
it's
thought
a
you said, I
lot,
thought you said
but
you're easy to find. You said 8 names.
I only said 4. Um, and they can also look for me by just looking at the Julia Leclerc. And then I also have a work number that I don't mind giving out, especially if people are feeling like down in the outs.
Okay.
And so that is 361-960-5161. And so that's my work cell phone number, and it's my number. And
Okay.
so, yeah. And so if you want to text me or something like that, and then of course I think you're posting this, and so hopefully, and so
Yeah.
I can leave a comment or something and leave my contact info there.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, sharing, being vulnerable and sharing your experiences. I learned a lot of new stuff today, about cage kicking. So that was good. And everything else that you shared has been great. So thank you for what you're doing for veterans, giving your time and your services. And hopefully one day we can get our foundation or whatever you want to call them, our nonprofits, get it up and running and make make it happen. So do you have anything else that you might want to close out with, or did we touch on everything that you wanted to cover?
No, I think I'm good. I just want to thank you for letting me be here, and for everyone that does listen, and to know that for the people that do watch or listen or whatever.
Uh-oh. She's about to say something good. Let's try to take her off. I guess while she's gone, everybody appreciate you guys and girls listening in. If you're a veteran or a veteran, thank you guys for your service. It's been an amazing time talking with Julia today, and I hope you guys got some value from it. If you're feeling alone, you want to reach out, I'm here to talk to you. I don't want nothing from you. Hold on. I think she just joined back in, but let's see. Yeah, I was going to say, you just getting ready to say something good. You cut out. Then I had to take over and try to fill in the blank or something like that. But go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I want to thank everyone for listening, and that if you need anything, to reach out, and to remember that there is someone that will be there. You just got to reach out and, call them, talk to them. We're here, and, you're loved and everything. And that includes you, Mr. Michael. And so,
let's go.
Yeah. So, and that's all. And I'm here.
All right. Well, like Julia said, you guys have some people to reach out to. I'm always willing to talk to anyone at any time, as long as I'm not sound asleep and you say, I try to get a hold of you, sleeping. But other than that, happy to help. Julia gave out her phone number. We'll post her information when we post this to YouTube. And just wanted to say again, thanks everybody for listening in. We appreciate you guys' girls' service. And don't hesitate to reach out. At the end of the day, just know no one's going to want it as bad as you. So continue to find out what your why is. Wake up in the morning, try to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. And you can't really go wrong trying to live your life like that. So appreciate everyone listening in. Until next time, have a blessed one. Take care.